Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. And in the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And today we're going to go maybe a little bit deep on a topic. I feel compelled to talk about it a little bit. I woke up this morning with tonight's topic on mind. But I knew it was going to be important. Number one, I'm not a dreamer, you guys. This is right. They say that everybody dreams because they can tell by the movement of their eyeballs underneath their eyelids when they sleep. But I never ever uh, wake up to a dream. Even if I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't normally, very rarely, right? And I would have to say, I didn't have a dream for like 6 years to my knowledge up until this year, that on occasion I'm getting a little bit of a visual and maybe a little bit of a fog of something when I first wake up in the morning. So it's not the norm for me. But when I wake up with an experience, right? And an experience that I remember the feeling, I remember the visual, and well, I guess I can attach it to the feeling too, but those emotions that I have in that moment, I pay attention. We talked about it a little bit yesterday about that hypervigilant. It matters on this, especially when it's not the norm. We take notice of what's not the norm. So I was just finishing up watching my live show from last night, and yes, I take my own lessons because if you came into my show yesterday, you know I'm not always the star of the show. I come in and I just try to relax into the conversation, and we just feel out what comes through, like Eugene here, that I can always depend on showing up here every single night. Very much appreciate that you come here, and I hope you're having an amazing night, Eugene. So, in yesterday's conversation, I was mentioning a couple of content creators that I follow, like I really follow. I follow so much that, well, especially with Victor, that I feel that connection to his content, and I very rarely miss one of his posts. I really do appreciate, but I'm like that with a few people, and and a lot more dedicated with some others, right? But as time goes by, we'll talk about them. But these two creators, was Dr. Gabor Mate and Victor Otto. I was talking about their ideas on parenting and their feelings that possibly they might not have been a good parent in this life or the possible past life, if you believe that way, right? That and they are both making up for that in this moment, right? And they make a lot of content that is actually dedicated in representing, well, the new them, right? And, possibly because I do my live shows at 9 p.m., maybe it was on my mind a little bit before I went to bed. I didn't think that it was, but, it doesn't matter what it was. But I woke up in the morning with an experience that kind of jolted me, that kind of woke me up to the idea that possibly I don't have any children in this lifetime, but in past lifetimes or in lifetimes that are happening in sequence to this life that I'm living right now, because it felt so real. It felt so in the moment. And this experience, this fog lifting, right, was happening when I wake up. It always does. But because it jolted me, because right away I got triggered in it, and I had to sit with it. I had to feel it out, and I had to reconcile within myself this idea that possibly I might not have been a good parent. And it makes sense epigenetically, lifetimes after lifetimes, we only learn and we are only brought up in the experiences of what we're experiencing. And normally, what we're experiencing is what our parents experienced in their own lives. It's just passed down. That garbage is just passed down from one generation to another. Sometimes in these funny ideas that people say, this is how it is, right? But it's not how it is in the moment for me, but possibly somehow, some way it is. Okay, this is what I woke up to this morning. Kathy, you're here. You're here. This is going to be a good one. I think it's a good one because I was woken up, like I was smacked silly by this. But I woke up in the morning with a memory, right? She'll have to wait. I woke up this morning, and I'm just going to turn all my notifications down so that I don't get bothered by that. I'm really sorry. But that's the idea, right? That sometimes this is what happens when you have something important to get across, or something important you have to do, that we are distracted into doing something else. Okay, let's get into this dream. I felt this dream. I felt this dream emotionally. I felt this dream physically. Oh, goodness. I felt this physically and emotionally, physically, and visually, right? And like I said, I'm not a dreamer. So when I woke up and I felt it, and it felt so real, right? I knew it was a lesson for me. And I'm kind of horrified to even say it because I was just disgusted with myself in that. So it only lasted, right? I only have the visual and the feeling that moment maybe lasted just a couple of moments of that memory. But there was a small child, a little girl, blonde hair, might have been 4 or 5 years old. I'm doing something, and I'm either kneeling on the ground or bending over or something. And this little girl is trying to get my attention. She's right up against me. I feel like she was my daughter. I really feel that she was my daughter. And she was right up against me. And she was just trying to get my attention, but I was trying to do something else. And I felt like nails on a chalkboard. I felt so much anger and frustration that she was bothering me that moment. And I went whoof, like this. And she flew like 3 feet up against the wall. I was looking at her. I looked at her, and there was somebody else, possibly a husband or a family member that was behind me somewheres, who witnessed that, or maybe didn't witness that, because I looked at the little girl, and the first thing I saw was a mark across her face under her eye. And I don't remember if she was crying. Maybe she was just in shock or something in the moment. But the first thing that came to my mind is, oh my goodness, I'm going to be in trouble because somebody's going to see that mark in her face and, right, know that I had done something to this little child. Okay. At this point, I am now sitting up, and this is not a dream part, right? I am sitting up on my bed with my legs off the side of the bed, and I'm thinking about this picture. And it was a message. It was a message for me, right? Exactly what I was saying, that possibly at some point I might have not been a good parent. And the first thing coming back to my mind was the fact that I was trying to think of how I was going to cover my butt, how I was not going to get in trouble for this, how I was going to explain what happened to this little girl, right? Like I said, I really felt like she was my daughter. And again, like I said, it could have been something I drummed up in the conversation that I had last night, right? In our live show. But I was mortified. I went, oh my goodness, like I don't dream, right? This is something that, right? You can't feel that you're a good person because you don't know epigenetically, right? You don't know if this is something possible that might have happened, right? And so I sat with that, right? And in my mind's eye, I just walked over to that little girl. The dream was over, but in my mind's eye, right? My imagination, and I hugged her and I said, I'm sorry with all my heart. And I meant it, that I was really, really sorry because I knew how that little girl felt in that moment. Was that enough? Possibly not for that little girl. Who's to say how often that might have happened to her, or if it would continue to happen to her. But in my mind's eye, I'm just thinking, please let this message get to her to say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean it. And if I did something bad that hurts you or causes you problems, like I want you to know, I really, really didn't mind it. I didn't mean it, right? And doing that as kind of a third party, not as that person who actually did that, but doing it as the person that I am in this moment. And I thought about it and I went, oh my goodness, something can be done about this, right? Because in my own recognition in that moment, I knew I had the potential. And I felt that feeling that my mother felt in those moments when she went at me, right? When she went at me. Now, she never, ever apologized. She never made up for her wrongs, ever. She never let me know this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, right? But for me, in that moment, I got such a release and an understanding of that pain and that frustration of that little girl, right? And myself. But I wasn't able to look back into those emotions and give my mother any understanding in that. I forgave my mother. I attribute these things to our evolution. We are messed up. We have probably all come from a family where we've had those high hands against us, right? Where we have very overly protective, overly domineering, because I said so. Do as I say, not as I do. That we probably all have bits of that inside of us. But the idea in evolution is that we move past that, right? That we get better at that. That at some point in our evolution, there won't be a need for child and family services, right? That there won't be, a need for psychologists and coaches and therapists and our best friends, right? To be able to hash over these problems and these feelings that we have, that we store inside. We store inside from possibly hundreds of years, thousands of years, right? Things change, and I really believe, because I don't dream that it was a specific message. It was meant for me to delve in, and of course, right, in being the person that I am and having my platform and what I do here, that I felt it was something that needed to be delved into deeper. Because if there are good people that I consider mentors and sages, and right, that possibly, in their own darkness, right, we are either light in the darkness or darknesses in our lights. And in the end, it's the same, isn't it? Because these are the two groups that have assimilated, that have those dynamics now. It's not a matter of right and wrong, good and bad, righteous and unrighteous, right? We are all a mishmash now of both. Part of it we can blame, the right sex, love, rock and roll, the hippie era, right? Women's liberation, where women thought they can do it all on their own, that they didn't need a man, where they're possibly not even getting married, that possibly their children have different fathers that might have not even been in the picture very long, maybe not been in the picture so much that we don't even know who they are. That, right? I moved in with my husband, or my husband moved in with me the day after our first date, right? And he moved in 6 months later. We were engaged. A year later, we were married, right? But when we separated, if I had had children and in the state that I was, in the sadness, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, how that sadness brings us down. Our children pick up on that. And epigenetically, we pass that on. And sometimes we express that, don't we? If it wasn't for you, I would be in Hawaii. If it wasn't for you, right, I'd have a new husband, right? Because it is in that evolution that we get better, right? And in this moment, we think the world is crazy town, right? But it is so much better. But sometimes, right? And in the first thought that came into my mind just now is because there's just the Homo sapiens, right? As humans, we have gone extinct to the point that the Homo sapiens are the only humans that are left. No Neanderthals, no Denisovans, no Homo erectus, no Homo legeni, right? There, there's a lot of them, you guys. And a lot of them I can't pronounce their name because they're all technical and scientific, right? But to get back to that, I believe that whoever, whatever, right, has offered up an opportunity to introduce some diversity so that, right, we don't get extinct. And possibly that's what that group is, right? That even though we are called Homo sapiens, I sure don't feel like a Homo sapien anymore, to be all honest with you guys, right? That I feel that I am a synthesis of many. And, you know, in that, what I was going back, into the 60s and 70s up until to now, where, a mother could have fathers for numerous different of their children. But if we don't know those men that we're introducing into our family, who's to say, right? That possibly they're the dark, right? And not a dark in their lightness or a lightness in their dark, because, right, these are two groups. And that's kind of realist because, right, if you can't trust the dark, right? And you can't trust the righteous because the righteous always feels like they're right. They're the controlling. They're the do as I say, right? Not as I do, because I said so. And it's not their fault, right? But to each one of us, we get the choice whether or not to move, right? Or whether to stay in the place that we are. And that's why I believe we have a great opportunity now to bring, right? Uh, and create, because we have created the babies, we've created the light and the darknesses, and we've created the darknesses in their life, in the light. But, right? Who is bringing them to the light? Who's leading them to that point? And sometimes, right, I think it's each other, right, in our own realizations. And there's, I'd have to say, a good chance, and what I'm saying is incorrect, that possibly I'm reading into a dream that was just a dream because I was talking about it the night before. But because I feel the way I feel, because I believe the way that I believe, and because I am, well, having that dream, waking up to that dream this morning, I'm not quite sure if I'm a dark touching the lightness for the first time, or if, right, I'm a light that is remembering and moving towards, right, to something that is a mixture of both. Can I leave it at that? I think we can. I think we're going to go into a card. Maybe the card will be relevant to the conversation. It was heavy and it felt so real. It felt so real, but it was so short too. Like I said, it was only what I was coming out of, but it imprinted. Like, even me, I can see the wall. I can see me hunched over something. I can feel that there's somebody in the same room, maybe not paying attention, but somebody behind me in the same room, right? And I could see the mark on this little girl's eye, even in this moment. And that rarely happens. And because, I believe in those dreams, for different reasons, and as we move forward, I'll share more in those reasonings, right? And in those stories. In the moment, it's kind of personal, and I don't have a claw in it yet. I don't have a specific understanding. It's still something that I'm working through. But in the feelings that I had when I went like that to the girl and she went flying, like she flew at least 3 feet, and she was sitting on the floor with her back up against the wall, right? And she had that mark across her face, like, right? And that is a heavy dream. Now, is that a nightmare? I wasn't scared in the moment. I was in a fury in that moment. It was a fury, and I think it was meant to because I never had children, right? I never had children. But would I have been a part of my mother and pass that epigenetically down to my kids? It's quite possible it would have happened. I'm only saying that because, well, I wasn't woke to any of these ideas, right? Until well into my 50s. And my children would have been grown by then, wouldn't they? Okay, you guys, let's pick a card. If it's relevant to the conversation, it's relevant to the conversation. If it's not, we'll just get into it in another way. I hope everybody, thank you guys for coming in. It's really quite amazing, Kathy, that when I do the deep ones, right? When I do those heavy ones, that you always seem to be here with me. Like you always seem to be here with me on those days. And I appreciate that. I really do. I really do appreciate you that. And thank you so much, you Deep Jean. I appreciate you too. Thank you. Okay, you guys. Here's the card. And if you've never hung out with me before, 54 powerful words, you guys. So let's grab one, go into it for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to call it a night because I'm going to stop here in that hypervision. That distraction is, oh my goodness, crazy town today with the emails. I had something else blow up. I had suntan, brand new in the containers, new in the box, and a very expensive suntan lotion. I had 4 boxes, and I had over 500 watchers on this suntan lotion, and I was on my phone messaging and wheeling and dealing, and everybody wants a deal. So at the point, I just copied the same message, and every time somebody messaged me, I just gave them the same reply, right? Message me when you're ready to come over. Let me know if you want it. This is the price. This is the address, but be sure to message me before you come over to make sure I still have it. Here's the words, you guys. Okay. Oh, you guys. Kathy. This is nuts. So don't you think there's something to this? This kind of really this gets me. I just don't get it. I'm not getting the connection somehow, right? I have run with my first perspectives, first thing that comes to my mind every time I pull this card. I just don't understand why I pull this card so many times. This is actually the second time I think this week that I pulled this card. I don't get it. And I purposely hold the cards up so you guys know that I'm just right. This freaks me out. This really does. Okay. First perspective, community. Possibly. Okay, this is the thing that's coming to my mind right now. That possibly this is a community problem, right? That in this community that I have, that maybe I am actually part of Victor's community, right? Or Dr. Gabor Mate's community, right? In this community that finds themselves in this situation that is hurting our children and hurting the next generation going forward, or stopping our other parts of ourselves from moving forward, that possibly that we are the light in the darknesses, right? And the darknesses touching the light for the very first time. Maybe these two communities are my community, right? And we are the next stage of evolution. Maybe this is where control comes from, right? That we haven't gotten to the point of narcissism, right? That we, right? We have that control, right? Or not have that control, but we want that control. We represent that we have that control, right? And we do try to have that control, but we have to understand that we only have control over ourselves, our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own actions, right? And so maybe it's this idea of synthesis, right? And it'll be crazy if we pull that word synthesis, because I've got that word in this deck too. So if I pull that word in the next week, it's really going to freak me out. But maybe, right? This is our community, the community of trauma, complex trauma, the community that has issues with understanding those parts that we feel bad about, that we maybe possibly struggle with guilt and shame, and maybe possibly think we are more dark than light. Or, right, maybe we think we're more light than dark, when in actuality we are, right, a mixture. And just like our parents, right, we have to think we get so and so chromosomes from one parent and so many chromosomes from the other parent. But it's not necessarily, right, that the mother gets the blue eyes and the brown hair and the good skin or being tall, right? Sometimes we get like maybe, short like our dad, right? But still have the blue eyes like our mom. Or maybe it's the opposite way around, that it's not always evenly spaced. Maybe we get mom's bad, angry personality, and sometimes we get dad's loving, attentive, right, woke personality, right? Just like my sister's my mother's daughter, and I am my father's daughter. My sister is very empathic too, but she swings, right, in the direction of my mother. She carries those traits of control, right? Maybe some narcissism, but I'm not going to label her when I'm not a true expert in that, right? I dabble. I feel my way around. I get myself into the topics only so that I can get myself into the conversation. And sometimes right? It's just knowing a little bit. Oh my goodness. Can you believe that, Kathy, that we got that twice this week? I still have cards in here that I've never, ever, ever pulled. There's a message in that for us, you guys. I am convinced of it. What it is, I don't know. If we don't get it for a little while, maybe I hit it. But if we do, we'll try again. You guys, that's it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, something to think about, isn't it? Right? Something to think about. Okay, if you want to throw me some thoughts on that, I would appreciate some clarity, right? Sometimes that clarity comes to me in its own unique ways, but sometimes I don't get the full picture. Sometimes I put my own experience, what I know, what I've been projected to understand into understanding something and get it totally wrong, right? But we'll see if we get that card. We get that card. That's incredible. Okay, you guys, that's it for us tonight. I'm going to call it a night. It has been a busy day. My eyes are sore from all the texting and messaging I did today and the listing. I got some good ones up. If you want to go into my marketplace, right? Prairie Dodgers, find me on Facebook. You can go into my marketplace and you can see all our listings. We got tons to list. We're moving our whole store to my marketplace. So if you want to check it out, I'm not saying buy anything, but just to see what we're doing there and see how hard we're working to get it done. I have been a little bit of a listing monster today. Okay, you guys, have a great night and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Incredible.